Hello out there. My name is Laulu Akode and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, here is my take for the day entitled Three Matters Arising. Three matters arising. Number one, it is a relief that the Supreme Court has now dismissed the self-serving plot of about 19 state governments to distort the fight against corruption. They wanted to rubbish the act that set up EFCC, ICPC, and NFIU. The 7-member Supreme Court panel that judged the case on Friday unanimously dismissed the suit with a reassuring rebuke, accurately calling the attempt, quote-unquote, selfish. As a matter of fact, the Premium Times newspaper also called the judgment a stinging rebuke. That is indeed comforting to our Commonwealth. It is inspiring because it shows us that the redemption of the things that have gone wrong in our country is altogether not impossible if we don't relent. Meanwhile, let us also note what the former governor of Delta State, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, has said. He is now under EFCC investigation. But listen to what he said, and I quote him. I am not afraid of any investigations, and I will not stop the EFCC from carrying out its duty, unquote. Dr. Okowa, former governor of Delta State, has the right spirit. At least the man is innocent until otherwise proven guilty. Maybe Dr. Okowa, former governor of Delta, is openly tutoring former governor Yahaya Bello. We hope that our brother from Kogi will learn. The second issue, Inside Sources is, however, worried that our honorable leaders of the judiciary, our judges and justices in the judicial arm of government, have becoming increasingly too chummy in their relationship with members of the executive at various levels of government. Some of these things are now really becoming too blatant before our very eyes. Now, according to Rule 1.4 of the Code of Conduct for Judges in Nigeria, and I quote, the judge must be sensitive to the need to avoid contact that may lead people to speculate that there is a relationship between him or her, that is the judge, and someone whom the judge may be tempted to favor in some way in the course of his or her judicial duty. This is what the rule says. And Professor Chidi Odinkalu has been commendably in the forefront of trying to articulate this very important point about the integrity of our judiciary. We have to secure it. In order to maintain reasonable public confidence, our judges should please insist that the judiciary become completely financially autonomous. Actually, in line with our constitution, that arm of government, that is the judiciary, should be the one to determine the welfare of judges when they need cars, when they need houses, when they need accommodation. Because the separation of powers is an imperative of democracy. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, the Honorable Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, comes to the job with considerable and sterling credentials, and we are extremely proud of her. But she should please reconsider how she responds to requests from the executive arms of government. She should turn down requests that can create the perception of favor and that can question the impartiality of the judiciary arm of government. And now we come finally to the third point. Mrs. Kemi Badenoch has come under some intense attack because she said she doesn't want the United Kingdom, where she is now the leader of the Conservative Party, to become like the country she ran away from, that is Nigeria. Our take, however, is that the obsession and the outrage with Mrs. Kemi's comments about some of the stark realities of our country is completely diversionary. Instead of attacking Mrs. Kemi, let us consistently attack our problems in this country and let us challenge those problems headlong. Who cares what Mrs. Badenoch has to say? At best, that is just a tiny irritation. Where we need to exert our mental energies is to mount pressures on our leaders and government, for instance, to fix a national grid that is now globally prominent. for collapsing, to reduce the alarming poverty in the country, to provide succor to the mass of our people suffering from the ongoing hardship, to figure out a way of restoring basic education in the states so that we can banish ignorance, disease, and misery away from among our people. It is as though we have problems such as leprosy, but we are treating ringworm. That is what this obsession with Mrs. Badenoch's comment comes to. Let us focus on the bigger picture. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, as we continue the conversation on the future of our great country, I have in the studio with me an eminent Nigerian, someone whose voice runs very deep, the Emeritus Archbishop of Abuja of the Catholic Church. I'd like to welcome to Inside Sources for the first time, John Cardinal Onayekon. Sir, you're welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming.
Bless you. And we greet the viewers. May God bless all of you and bless our nation, Nigeria.
Amen, amen. So it's a conversation about our nation, and I'm sure that you will agree with me that this country is certainly destined, designed to be great. Now, if you look at where we are today, are we going in the direction of that greatness, Cardinal?
Thank you very much that you have started this discussion with this concept of a nation destined for greatness. Because when we check the various parameters of that make up this nation, in terms of population, in terms of climate, in terms of fertility of the soil, in terms of even the richness of culture, you have here a package of a nation that even the rest of Africa knows is special. We are more. And interestingly, thanks be to God, when Nigerians go outside of Nigeria, they really show what Nigerians can do and what they can be. Because it is well known now, whether in Europe or in America, Nigerians are top. And so much so that others are asking us, what's happening? Why is it that your country that produces such wonderful people is still wallowing in underdevelopment? So we have heard the whole story that the problem with Nigeria is leadership. Is maybe the way that Chino Achebe, who is a literary expert, puts it literally. Put it more concretely in terms of, it's like we are in a country that is badly managed. But the problem with the country is the management of the country. And we believe that if the country were better managed, we would move faster than we are doing now. And what does bad management of a nation means in our own terms? It means that the people who are taking decisions for us are not really taking decisions seriously in our own interests. And by the time we start asking, what are they doing? We are seeing it now. Everybody's complaining. When you see this discrepancy between the standard of living of those who rule and the rest of us who are ruled, when you also notice the discrepancy between the issues that those who rule are busy themselves talking about and what are the real issues that concern us, ordinary people, and when people have little or no trust in their country. We have been talking of trust deficit in this country since the days, especially in the recent time, since the days of Buhari. And I dare to say that even now under Tinubu, that trust deficit is still there, getting worse. And no matter what system of government you have, if there is a disconnect between the people and the governors, it won't work. Yes, we realize things are difficult in this country, the country now. There's a lot of problems, a lot of pains. We understand, yes. And even sometimes the Mr. President tells us that he feels this pain, but that we should accept the pain like a bitter pill. It's like medicine. that is given to us. Before you take a bitter pill, you need to assure the patient that he believes that this pill is good for him. But if the patient either does not have any trust in the doctor who is prescribing his pills, or he actually knows that this pill will not solve my problem, he will not accept the pain. And if he doesn't accept the pain, he will not cooperate. And we are hearing a lot of complaints on the part of the government that instead of the opposition to cooperate with us in what we are doing, they are spending all the time sabotaging our efforts. But they ought to realize that this is the whole issue. That is the whole issue. And that if you want to go philosophical,
Right.
I took it back to the fact that before God, all of us are equal.
Absolutely.
God did not create some people to be leaders and some people to be followers. We are all equal.
We created that.
It is. But God created us in such a way we can decide to choose who will lead us
among ourselves.
Human beings arrived at the fact that we need some people to rule while others should follow. We need constitutions. Otherwise, we are in the era of living as animals in the bush. That's an agreement by human beings. It's our own agreement that although we are all equal, we give authority to some people. And we can see now that people get authority by one reason or the other. Sometimes by sheer chance. Sometimes by maybe there may be a real clear understanding. And once we realize that the rulership is not a license to look down at others as if they are not anything. But rather that your rulership is there to serve them. That makes the whole difference.
Exactly. So just so we can get into it, I like your opening comments, and you touch on quite a lot of issues. Yes. To deepen it, I want to take it from what you just said about the fact that we are different from animals. You said, as in the forest. Yeah.
We need a God.
Otherwise we will be in a state of nature.
Yes.
I think it was John Locke that described as the state of nature, which is short, brutish, and nasty.
Yes.
Now, so in order for us to arrange ourselves, just like you said that, so we are the ones that say, okay, you guys will lead, we will follow. When we have chosen leaders, I have come to the conclusion, and I'll make a statement and then we will respond, that the voices of people who are not among the political leadership now, their voices should never be drowned. Because if their voices are drowned, the only voices that we'll be hearing, and that is beginning to happen in our country, will be the partisan differences among those who are in political leadership. It will drown out some reasonable voices that articulate sheer, simple, common public interest.
Well, that is a big problem we have now in Nigeria. That there are a growing group of people who are identifying themselves as the politicians. And invariably, in practical terms, it means those who have joined political parties, card-carrying members, and they are the ones then who decide who take most of the decisions. They run around during election campaigns, and they claim that this running around is a great job, a great work they are doing, and they expect that there will be a reward for it, for having run around a lot, and the dividend from running around is to capture power, and with power you can do a lot of things. This is for me a great problem for our nation. Whatever form of government is there, we say it now that power belongs to the people. We didn't say power belongs to the party. But as we see it now, power belongs to the people because pure words. Because the people want their power, but they have no more access to it. You mentioned that their voices are drowned. Let's just say their voices are not listened to by those who ought to listen to it. And once in a while, some people shout too loudly, those in power are not ready to be disturbed by power. They claim that you are distracting them. We don't have to talk in theory. If you go practically, please, to the phenomenon we saw in August about the end bad government protest. A large number of people keyed into that idea that we don't have a good government on our hands, and that the situation we have should not continue. And they made noise about it. They said they were going to make noise about it. The rulers agreed that you have a right to make noise. Thank God they did agree to that. That the ordinary people has a right. Even if you had a perfect election, it does not mean that the rulers. It does not mean then that the people have now become the slaves of the rulers.
True.
The rulers are still the owners of the power.
Yes. The people are still the owners of the power.
People are still the owners of the power. And so the government had difficulty accepting that people have a right to say we are not happy with what is happening. What one would expect, therefore, is that the ruler should listen to that kind of objection. And it does not translate into saying, come out of government, we want to rule in your place. No, because actually those who are organizing end bad government were not preparing an alternative government. So the whole idea that they were trying to overthrow government, for me, seems to be it was uncalled for. It was uncalled for, and because if we don't make room for people to air their their opinion about how they are being ruled, then we are in dictatorship.
Thank you.
Then we are in dictatorship, and we should stop talking about democracy.
About democracy, yeah. I mean, hopefully we are not. One of the major credentials of our current president is his democratic pedigree.
Hopefully we are not. Hopefully Nigerians refuse to be treated as slaves.
Absolutely.
And when we compare us, I will not mention names. There are nations where the people have practically simply given up. You will not see anybody shouting anything. There are either those who are not happy, either have gone on exile or are just sitting down waiting. Now, I don't think our country is that kind of a country.
And we won't let it be. Now, so I wanted, therefore, to deepen that issue of the voices. So you've made a good point that, yes, the voices of the people. Now, leadership has different sectors. So the people in government, those are the political voices, the government voices. But there are other sectors of leadership. There are religious leadership, such as people like yourselves, academic leadership, public intellectuals,
industrial and economic leadership.
Economic leadership. Now, so in your view, Cardinal, what is the role of those other set of leaders in securing the future of this country?
It boils down to this. The political leadership should understand the scope and the limits of their leadership. And they know very well that they cannot do it alone. The political leadership has its own role, meaning it has to do with the management of public affairs. But the country is more than politics. I think I will apply to my own constituency. The religious constituency.
Right.
And if for that one I can speak a lot, that those whom, according to our understanding, there are those who have been called by God to enunciate the will of God for the people. This is in line with the biblical idea of the prophets of old. A prophet will come and say, "The Lord
Thus says the Lord." Yeah.
The Lord says. And he doesn't listen to anybody. He listens only to
God,
the Lord. Yeah, you say what you want to say. The ruler is left to either listen to you, accept, or to say no. Like in case of Jeremiah, dump you into the dungeon to shut you down. But whether you listen to the prophet or not, we believe that God is still in charge of his word. We have been talking about the power and the authority of the people all along. But we must not forget that beyond the people, there is still the Almighty God. And I believe this is where any good governor and any good politics should realize that there are these two poles. The good of the people and the glory of God, to put it in our own terminology. My church has a very interesting definition of what politics is. We believe that. We said politics is the readiness of some people to serve the common good, not minding their own personal interests, to the greater glory of God. In other words, you enter politics to help to make society better. And, and that task comes with a cost, which you are ready to pay. In our case, we know for sure that the politician those who go into power, they are well paid by our people. They are well paid. And we don't even grudge them a good salary. What I grudge them is thinkingly unjust remuneration that they give to themselves. And I think it is not difficult for us to just look and see, is this okay that a member of the House a senator, because of sitting in the House in a nice air-conditioned room, some of them don't even attend because we see so many empty seats. Is it fair that at the end of the month they are constantly cutting home millions and millions? Those same people are still arguing about minimum wage of 70,000 naira a month. I mean, under any way of thinking, there is something that doesn't go well. We are not saying that the senators should be prepared to receive 70,000 naira a month. Nobody has asked them to do that. We expect them to get a good salary. But what is happening is unconscionable.
One of the things that I found quite actually honestly appalling is that DPOs, divisional police officers in this country, the people who man our security, internal security,
that's the whole area.
They don't get 50,000 naira monthly to run the stations. At times it's a struggle. But our senators and our federal representatives, they collect 20 million naira running cost. The DPOs don't get, even if they get 50, there'll be instances where DPOs tell you that we can't even fuel our cars.
They can't fuel the cars.
And you have people in the National Assembly representing us, collecting that much without banging the table that, look, you have to fix, for instance, these DPOs. That is where the people are.
Well, this is where we have this whole problem that we run a government that is not being run on truth. That there's so much fakery. Like we are representatives of the people. Do they represent us? That we are representatives of the people. Do they really represent us? If they do, how do they account to us? And how do we let them know whether they are doing whatever they are doing according to our interests, the way we like? There have been so much complaint about the about the heavy remunerations that people in elective offices and sometimes also in the appointed offices are giving to themselves. It comes down to cutting as much as you want from the national cake for yourself, and you claim that it is your constitutional duty and your constitutional right to do so. And we are saying, therefore, you are saying one thing, but you are doing quite another. It is not fair. It is not true. It is not right. We cannot talk of government when all you have there is people who are just helping themselves. Some people have used expression that as if that the government, we can reach a time when the government is just made up of people who are stealing. We've lost the meaning of the word steal. Yoruba call it ole.
Yes.
Meaning you take what does not belong to you, what you don't deserve. With all due respect, a lot of people out there are taking what
they don't deserve.
But who determines what they deserve? This is where your point is very important. Listening to the people. But if you left to them, they are okay. Everything is all right. And you're talking about banging the table in the National Assembly. Isn't it, for me, it is a miracle or something I can't understand that after the elections, and we had so many, of course, the APC had the largest number of members of the National Assembly, but we had a good chunk of people from APC, the National Assembly, and even some new names, new figures called the Labour, who had a good number.
APC, PDP, and Labour Party.
Up to today, after more than 18 months, we have never seen any clear case where the so-called non-APC have disagreed with the APC.
Very important point, Cardinal.
We have never seen them say, no, we don't deserve 40 million naira a month. The people we left behind are still struggling with 70. We have not seen them decide, protest, which is what they are there for.
Yeah.
Because there are Nigerians who did not vote for APC. So I'm not even granted that APC got the highest number of votes, and that is why they have the right to rule us. But they also forget that there are other millions of Nigerians
who did not.
Yeah. In other words,
but the rules,
whatever the rules say the reality is that.
In terms of the raw numbers,
I look at it,
in terms of the raw numbers,
more people voted against Mr. President than those who voted for him. Even if you are a minority government, which is what I call what we have now, you still have a duty to serve
the people. True. And I agree with you that, everybody in government.
Yeah, you still have the duty to serve the people and to do all you can to give everybody what is their right and to rule well. I imagine the same thing applies to those who are in the opposition. Those who are not in government, since everybody cannot be in government, we should be open to collaborate with those who are
in government.
But you see, that kind of collaboration demands that go back to the question of trust. We must have a situation where there's a minimum of agreement among the people that, yes, we are going in the right direction and we'll walk in that direction.
Okay. Let's shift the conversation a little bit. And let me ask you that if you look at you are the emeritus Archbishop of Abuja, so you can speak for the Christian faith. If you look at some of the things that are happening in our society and what is being preached in the churches
and in the mosques,
there seems to be, in my view, and then I'll make my observation and then you comment, there seems to be that the religious organizations themselves have become a reflection of the society, even when the society is going through a time of declining values. The religious organizations, you will expect to be the ones to raise the bar and call to question the fact that our values are declining as a people. But we don't see a lot of that. Cardinal, what do you think is going on?
Let me speak very frankly.
Please.
I I was bishop. I was bishop of over 40 years. I've been very involved with the life of the Christian church in Nigeria. I've also been involved in relationship between different churches. As you know, we have the Christian Association of Nigeria.
Yes.
And we have to manage to get access into 5 blocks.
Yes.
Because there was so much diversities, so much divisions in our ranks. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot talk now in Nigeria about this is the Christian position on anything. That this is what all Christians hold on to. And which means the force of what you can call Christian witness is very much reduced because you don't have a clear message. I can only talk for myself. To some extent, I can talk about what my Catholic Church believes because we have certain clear principles that are in writing that we have all imbibed. But beyond that, you don't have. And when you go beyond Christianity, you go to Islam. You have another question altogether. But the position I have arrived at, or what I thought I have arrived at, following the question you raised, is that it is, on the one hand, Nigeria is the most religious country in the world, almost. And this is judged by the parameters of religious performances and whatever. The holy noises all over the place. On the other hand, Nigeria is the most corrupt country in the world, or almost. And we have been, how come, if the country is so religious, how come it is so corrupt? And we must admit that it simply shows that we must make a distinction between religious and godliness. And that there are people who are religious, who shout religion, who say everything about religion, who even quote chapters and verses from holy books. But when it comes to the core of what is godliness, meaning sincerity, love of neighbor, love of God, that is where we know who it stands. After all, Jesus said it's not everybody who says, Lord, Lord, but the person who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. And I came to the conclusion, therefore, that religious institutions in Nigeria, official religious institutions in Nigeria, have a task of self-examination.
Self-examination.
They should ask themselves, have we been projecting the right message of our faiths? If we have been doing it, we will not have this kind of outcome. And that therefore, the kind of corrupt and godless outcome we have has shown that the kind of religiousness that we have is not leading any way. Now, I can say that for myself. I have to do my contribution, and I can advise my fellow bishops to do their best to make sure that they promote godliness, but I have no authority over anybody else, except that I can say it like this. And
it's a very powerful voice.
It has to be said. It has to be said that we cannot just be rejoicing that our churches are full, that we can build big churches. Very good, but we still want to see where is godliness
in all of this.
And if religion does not lead to godliness, it's even worse than none at all.
Very important, very important. And besides the fact that, we are dealing with a problem of corruption, which I'm coming back to, we are also dealing with intense multi-dimensional poverty. which is one of the things that I find quite confounding about our situation. We are blessed potentially, and even, beyond potentials, we've seen, some instances, how much money we make from oil and gas, how much we can make from solid minerals, and all of that. Even the human resources that we have, the kind of people that God has blessed us with. Clearly, we should not have a situation where we are dealing with multidimensional poverty, where about 60%, 70% of our people are poor. Now,
the two issues are related. I was just talking about religion and how religion, when it is not doing its work, does not have proper outcome of good governance and honesty in the society, and even love of neighbor, concern for one another, is not coming out. The same thing with what you are saying about poverty. If you want to put it a bit clearly, we can say Nigeria is not poor. Nigeria has been impoverished. We've made ourselves poor, but we are not really poor. And we see the once in a while when we go abroad and talk to our fellow other people, especially even in so-called developed and rich nations, and when you go there as a Nigerian and you ever try to explain the fact that you have poverty in your land, and they ask you why. And if you are sincere with yourself, you have to agree with them. Sorry, we have no business being poor. It is being said day in, day out. Yeah. So if we have no business being poor, and yet we are poor, then we look at why is it so? We see the reason now. We are being told day in, day out that much of the public funds is going into the wrong places. We started our discussion with this about the greatness of Nigeria because God has made us in such a way. Go out on the road, on the way from one place to the other. The kind of beautiful vegetation we have. Whatever you plant, we grow. But go to Burkina Faso now. No matter how resourceful they are, they cannot grow anything much because they don't have that kind of climate that we have here. Then you go underground. We don't even know how much we have under our soil. We've been talking very much about oil. Recently we have started talking about the solid minerals. If all these are not well managed, people still remain poor in the midst of plenty. Which is what is quite and that is where it is linked with good governance. That's where it is linked with good governance. And those who are in political leadership, they must accept responsibility for that.
Okay, Cardinal. So the other point that I wanted to, bring out along that side, especially regarding corruption, is the problem of greed. Now, one of the things that I have also observed, especially among our leaders, and this time it's not just the political leaders, but it is worse because political leaders are controlling public resources, is the extent of greed that is in the system, which is one of the reasons, to what you said, why we have impoverization.
Yes.
People are being impoverished because of the greed of others. The kind of figures that you get from EFCC and ICPC after a governor is out of power, or is a trillion and billions. Please, as a man of God, what do you think? Why is there so much greed? Because it's a major reason why there is poverty.
As a man of God, I also link it up with the quality of the homilies that we preach, the sermons that we give, the spiritual direction that we offer to many of our greedy people who are also very, very, they come regularly
for service.
As I have noticed in Nigeria too, you see, the greedy people, they also have a way of picking and choosing which churches they go to and who will be there, which preachers they will listen to. If they go to a church where they are constantly being challenged and made uncomfortable, they won't come back next Sunday.
We need more of that.
Well, you need more of that.
So that they don't have any place to hide.
So, I mean, I'm just starting from that.
Yeah.
Secondly, the fact that there is so much impunity. People are able to take a lot of things that doesn't belong to them, and nobody asks them, how come? Whereas if a poor man steals a piece of yam in the village, they throw him in jail for 6 months or more. So obviously there's something wrong with the justice system, which does not recognize that when until they will say Yoruba.
That what is not good.
It's not good. If it is stealing, it is stealing. I have reflected on how come people not only steal, but steal much more than they ever will need.
Yeah, that's really
If people steal because they are poor, we can understand. People steal because they are hungry and they steal something. In fact, actually, under natural justice, a poor man has a right to take something to eat, to survive. It will not be called theft. Or if it is theft at all, it will be handled, it will be treated with leniency. Leniency. But now, somebody is not poor. He already has a big house in Guzape, another house in Asokoro, another one there, another one in Lagos. He has also abroad. And he still keeps stealing. And you wonder why.
Why is that?
And they know very well that they will die, because they've seen many of their colleagues who, with all their wealth, simply die uselessly, like a chicken. Both the rich and the poor shall die. But can't they realize that? And so, and don't they realize that it is so much more gratifying, even for the person concerned, if by some kind of somehow you have a lot of resources at your disposal, and you are able to use it in such a way that you bring joy into many people's life. Does that not give you more joy than piling it up in a bank and sitting down and watching your bank account? I have also, in my reflection, felt that those people who are stealing big and who are very greedy, they are also never happy. They are never satisfied.
They are never satisfied.
In my own feeling, I feel that is God's own punishment on them, because they refuse because they are selfish. God will not allow them to be satisfied.
So greed becomes an affliction.
The greed becomes a punishment. In the first place, the greed is a disease. You must be mad to be making billions or millions every day, and you just sit down. Stolen money. And all around you is poverty.
Yeah.
You are not thinking of giving scholarships to children. You are not thinking of helping people in any way.
I'm sure. I mean, you must have attended some public school at some point.
Yes.
Right now, today, there are no decent public schools, whether primary or secondary, for the most part in this country. And this is where governors, because governors have all the responsibilities and powers when it comes to issues of education. If you look across this country, students are learning sitting on the bare floor, some of them on their bellies, no chairs, no teachers. They cramp like from 1 and 2 and 3 together.
What children?
In hundreds.
What children are lying on the floor? What children are lying on the floor? Not every child. What about the children who are in those business schools around your premises here?
Yeah, exactly. We even have over 20 million out of school children.
They are bad children. They are children who are suffering, who have poor education given to them. But we're in the same country. We're back again to the same question about the rich getting taken care of themselves and the poor being neglected. Because the rich are taking care of themselves in terms of education. There are so many. In fact, the people in government have abandoned the government public schools. As our church, we run the schools. And I'm always happy to let it known to anybody who cares to listen that the Catholic school went into private schools because we're driven away from public schools.
Yeah.
We started off with public schools, where the church and the state collaborated. That was the kind of school I attended, both primary and secondary.
I attended a Catholic secondary school myself, Loyola College.
Well, in those days, maybe those days too, government was...
Yes, government and the Catholic
Church. There's nothing wrong with collaboration between the state and what they used to call voluntary agencies. The moment that collapsed, only the poor people were left with whatever so-called government was able to offer. You have a situation where the people have been saying now, the children of the ministers and so on are not even attending our universities. They are all going abroad for the universities. Or now that we have something in between, they go to some of the prestigious private universities. Now, and that government can be happy with a situation where the schools that they claim to be spending government funds in are useless. Must be that they are mad. They don't care about the poor.
Yeah, I mean,
provided their own children can be well trained. In fact, they send them to the best schools abroad, hoping that they will come back and replace them and take over from them.
Honestly,
they are not thinking of God Almighty, who has other plans for this nation.
Thank you so much, Cardinal. I have one more question, and then I'll let you go. So, the current president has been in office for about 16 to 17 months now. If you had the opportunity to review what he has done, or if you have the opportunity to actually advise him, on things that you think he should do, what will be your counsel? What will be your review?
I will say, Mr. President, it's about time we switch from campaign mode to governance mode. Elections are over. Campaigns are over. We now have to govern. And govern the whole of Nigeria and every Nigerian. And therefore, the whole idea about those who supported me, those who didn't support me, even the whole system whereby high political offices are given as reward for those who were political activists, I don't believe that is the best way to move the nation forward. So I would say, now that you have been declared the president of Nigeria, sit down comfortably on that chair. As a religious leader, I will say, God has allowed it for you. God has allowed you to sit on that chair. But if God puts you there, you must then know that He is watching. He is watching you.
God is watching.
And that He'll be asking you, what did you do with the time you sat on that chair, which I allowed you to sit on? That's the first thing I would say. To move from that will remove all that all the polarization you were talking about. When Nigeria is being split into different political. No more between. There should be no more they and us. It should be just us Nigerians. The consequence of that is that the government should open up to receiving ideas, advice, contribution from those who are not political cronies. We should find ways of rewarding political cronies, but let our nation be ruled by the best brains possible. We can't afford to put our third 11 into our international game. We should get the best people we can. And that means, I'm afraid, the main responsibility for that is with the people who is in charge of government. It is the people in government who can show that they are opening up, and others will then join. It is not difficult to recognize gifted people with good ideas. It is easy to know when you have a government that is not listening to anybody's advice, who is only seeing everything said different from what they are saying as sabotage. That is not helpful for the country. Because, as we say, the moment you are president of Nigeria, you are president of everybody.
Everybody.
Unfortunately, we have imbibed this idea in Nigeria that like APC government now, that the president of Nigeria is also the head of the party. We don't. For me, that is doing us immeasurable damage, because the president is unable to work as a president of Nigeria, because he's constantly being pushed to be working as the head of a political party. And to be president of Nigeria is much, much more important than to be the head of a political party.
Very true.
Can't we agree that once somebody is elected into public office, he cannot head a political party anymore?
Well, because
having been elected into public office, if it is state level, once you are a governor of the state, you should, if you are to rule the state with impartial mind, then you must be somehow distanced from your political party.
Okay.
If you cannot be distant from your political party, and you must spend half of your time running after party affairs, obviously you will not be able to rule properly. Look, we have seen it. We have seen practical implications of this in the drama that is playing out now in Rivers State. When Mr. President gives his advice on the matter, we do not know whether the advice is from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria or whether it is from the head of APC.
Interesting.
If we look carefully, it would have been so much better if the president can be completely impartial on the matter.
Okay, let me quickly also ask you this one. How do you think the relationship between the judges and the people in government should be? Should it be chummy? We are having a situation now where, it seems that the relationship between the judiciary, especially their leaders, and governors and ministers,
so many anomalies in this.
Very, very.
We have so many anomalies in this country now. Things are being done wrongly, and we are taking them that it is okay. For example, when we were together at that forum for
National
Dialogue, and we're talking about homegrown parliamentary system. I was saying within my mind, don't we have a homegrown democracy in Nigeria now? The democracy we are running in Nigeria is our own homegrown, because our democracy is not the same as that of America or that of England. So, are you looking for a homegrown parliamentary system that we
already have one?
We have one. So, this situation, I think there are certain simple parameters of separation of powers normally in a democracy: executive, judiciary, and legislature. If you do not observe that, you end up with unjust situations. If judges cannot judge, what are they doing?
Well, they will say that the fact that they have chummy relationship wouldn't affect their judgment.
You can say so, but do we believe them? And especially when we see that the new houses are being built and given to them, and their salaries is being doubled and doubled two times a year. People are asking why. Why we are still not sure whether a poor worker can get 70,000 naira. No, nobody can. There are certain things you can do that you cannot deceive the whole world now. We are seeing it. It's too obvious that what is happening in the judiciary is not in the interest of this nation. If the judiciary cannot be independent of the executive.
That's the point.
then
There was,
they are no longer the last hope of the common man.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
A very good place to end the conversation for now. Thank you so much.
Everybody, the judiciary, the legislature, the executive, they all have my prayer and best wishes, but they should allow Nigeria to be what God has made it to be, a great nation.
Amen.
We should come.
Yeah, I believe that, and thank you so much for coming to this. Thank you for your service to the country, and thank you for your voice.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. We believe it. That is why we are here. And like the Cardinal has said, that's our prayer. Thank you for watching. My name is Laulu Akonde, and I'll see you at the next edition.